Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Jacob Licklider here. Slightly later than I was originally anticipating. And I do apologize that before we begin this video, I will want to give a little update on where I am going with the marathon. It's still happening, but I keep missing days. So just so you know, the videos are coming. There's a decent chance that Sundays will that until the new series of Doctor Who is over, Sundays may not be getting a marathon video watch. So I might just be so just to let you know about that. But also just I've been really busy. Second semester is starting up, and I am just making sure everything's prepped for that and everything. But I promise you, I will be getting that back, and the spare parts video should be coming out soon. But and because of that, I wasn't able to watch this week's episode of Doctor Who until this morning. So yeah, we were doing my initial reactions to Nikola Tesla's Night of Terrors. Now, of course, I should also mention, because YouTube did change their rules, and the law was updated and everything for the child online privacy protections, for COPPA. This video is not intended for kids. Yes, Doctor Who can be watched by kids, but this is from the perspective of an adult, and there are things discussed and things here, so, viewer discretion is advised. But I'm going to just go right out and say it. I really did enjoy this week's episode of Doctor Who. There was a lot really to enjoy. It was, we had one episode. I'm glad that unlike that this week, we were using both the entire 50 minutes instead of last week's using only 46. That was the first thing that really helped with pacing. But what I think really helped is that this story is, while it's dealing with, a threat that can take the entire world, it is dealing only with a couple of characters, really, outside of the TARDIS crew. You have the TARDIS crew, you have Nikola Tesla, you have Thomas Edison, you have Tesla's assistant, and then you have the villains. Yes. And it is, I will say, it is definitely one of those, it is definitely, and you have the villain, and it's definitely one of those stories where you have, where you have the, where you have this small cast, that really does help. You don't necessarily need a lot of stuff. Yes, there's some bit parts here and there, but they are mostly there as extras in the background, so you have this nice, fully populated area, but we're focusing in on just a couple of characters, doing a story that's that's not necessarily a character-focused story. It is a story that is helped by just doing something with these small amount of characters. It's not like, we absolutely have to have several hundred characters, and which is one of the problems. That was the problem with Orphan 55 last week. I will say this is also the first story. This series with a new writer. A new writer brought in. This story was written by Nina Mativier. Or Mativier, I don't know how to pronounce her name, but she was I believe she was the script editor for last series, or at least one of the script editors for the last series, and yes, she was a script editor for last series, and she wrote her first episode of this series, and I will say, her script was an excellent script overall. It knew how to do the pacings. I don't, because a lot of I have some complaints here or there with the story, but unlike Orphan 55, pacing is not one of them. There is plenty of stuff here. Yeah, it might have been nice to have sort of delved more into the pure historical feud between Tesla and Edison. and just how how those characters worked off each other. Because they are, it is one of those things where you have the entire things. But one thing I will praise Metavier script is that there isn't, we open right in the action, like, we open focusing on Tesla himself, on in his lab at Wardenclyffe, and it's in like 1903, and as he discovers basically alien technology, and him and his assistant, Dorothy Scarrett, who I'm not sure if Scarrett is an actual historical figure. I'm not entirely sure. I don't necessarily. No. It turns out she was one of his apparently she was one of his secretaries. And apparently. But apparently, she didn't actually. There's a little historical inaccuracy here. She didn't, but I'm not gonna. Of just the characters meeting her until much later in Tesla's life, but yeah, I won't tell that against them. It's good. She's basically his secretary, and she's there sort of to be his secretary / assistant / just sort of generally working with him to make sure his inventions go without a hitch. And I enjoyed their dynamic, but moving them at the very beginning, just as characters, and having them work around each other and just work together is great. And then the Doctor shows up with the danger. Like, we don't have any, Metivier seems to know that we don't have much time for character building scenes in the TARDIS. No, we need to get the Doctor and company into the action as soon as possible. So they just show up. Yeah, the TARDIS shows up later on, and becomes a part of, is used actually as a power source during the climax. Because there are, there are just one of those things where you have those things, but this is, moving them into, but having them just show up is great. It makes a lot of things run smoother. It gets things going. It gets us to explore the history faster, and it cuts out on scenes that may be necessary in a longer story, but because we're doing something so short, they just aren't. They would just take up space and take time away. That's one thing I will say. Of course, I will also say very nicely is that the stuff with Tesla and the stuff with Tesla, just the way Tesla is portrayed as this visionary, it was very, very enjoyable. He was such a fun character, just because because the script acknowledged that he had this brimming scientific mind and he was trying to find stuff. He got a lot of he had a lot of inventions. He predicted a lot of things that would eventually come to be, and part of him was really kind of born in the wrong time to get some of these inventions going up and running, because he basically had an idea for Wi-Fi and for robots and things, which I think is fascinating, because it's a nice sort of parallel, and it's one of many examples of sort of historical parallels or historical figures predicting technology and things as they are in the present. I know Douglas Adams at one point through Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy predicted quite a few things that have come to pass in the present. It's very nice, but I also like the script mentions the fact that it doesn't shy away from the fact that as an immigrant, he was discriminated against. He was thought of as pretty much sort of the not sort of an evil mad scientist, but just sort of the mad scientist who you're gonna kill us all, and well, actually kind of like an evil mad scientist. They're not actively evil, but like as an immigrant, people didn't like him, and he was taken advantage of by Thomas Edison. It doesn't shy away. The script doesn't shy away from the slightly nastier historical details around Tesla's life, but I will say, but the what's interesting here, what moves on to be interesting, is that there's still something very interesting, and there's also a really nice reflection in the companions who haven't heard of Tesla, because let's be honest, Nikola Tesla isn't that famous of a historical figure. Like, everyone knows Edison. But unless you've studied history or studied like the history of the history and the development of like electronics and things, you probably don't know Tesla that well. And it's nice to see his side of the story being told. While also not necessarily entirely demonizing Thomas Edison, because, yeah, Thomas Edison's a big character, and their rivalry is expanded upon. Yeah, Edison is painted in a worse light than Tesla, and the Not My Doctor people are going to have a field day here, and it'll be hilarious, just you watch, because they're going to completely misunderstand. Because Medivere does kind of humanize Edison a little bit, like, as sort of the ruthless businessman who takes credit, but also, for his hundreds of workers. But there's also points where he genuinely does kind of care about his workers, which, like, he mentions having one of his workers, he just had dinner with him and his wife last week. That's something that wouldn't necessarily, that I think that's supposed to be showing care. Maybe it should have been shown a little more. I'm not entirely sure. That's maybe a little flaw in the episode here. And I will be honest, there is a flaw with the way the villains are portrayed, just a little bit here. But like he does, Edison's presented as clever. He's the one who gets everyone off the street by building on the fear of Tesla. Like, oh, Tesla's gonna kill us all tonight. Get off the streets if you want to live. Which is one of those things that's just, it's mean, but there's also just this genuine respect portrayed by both men that they have for one another. That they kind of respect each other in a way, even though they don't, and that's a really, really nice. I'll also say, I really liked Jodie Whittaker as the Doctor here. I've been liking her more and more this season as this series goes on. I like her just enthusiasm. I like her bouncing ideas off of Tesla. I like them working together to try to find a solution. It's a lot of fun. Just to watch the energy Whittaker brings to the part, and it's something that I just think is really, really good. And there's also this connection sort of hinting at like this deeper connection of being alone, especially now with, the destruction of Gallifrey, that you have. But yeah, it's one of those things that I genuinely was having a good time. I was genuinely having a good time watching. Now, if there was one flaw, I will say, I think the companions are perhaps left with a little less to do here. They're very much just sort of put in the audience surrogate position. Like, Yaz is used, again, just as a character for Tesla to talk to at points, as a character to be clever, to try to escape the villains at one point, because, Mativia acknowledges, Tesla wouldn't know a thing about once he's captured on that spaceship. And Graham and Ryan are there sort of for comic relief. But that's just kind of a minor flaw. And I will say, I love the idea of aliens sort of being this almost dark reflection of Edison, just sort of cannibalizing other people's and other races' inventions, though the Silurian gun doesn't make much sense. Like, wait, Silurians aren't aliens. They live on Earth. What are you talking about. That was a bit silly, but I like the design. I like the design as sort of like just scorpions, and outside of a couple shots on the spaceship where it was like, seeing them in big groups, I liked how they sort of presented them, and they focused mostly, they a lot of times they kept them off screen, and they focused on the on the queen, who sort of the queen of the Skithra is the race, played by Antli Mahindra, who was, or I don't know how to pronounce her name. She was Ronnie in the Sarah Jane Adventures. She's been in some audios, a great actress, and she is clearly having a lot of fun with the makeup. It's very Arachnos-esque. People were thinking it was going to be Return of the Arachnos. It wasn't. It was just sort of that, but that's also just sort of a makeup, because they're arachnids. They're very clear. They have kind of similar designs, but she was clearly having a lot of fun. It was a good old-fashioned kind of over-the-top Doctor Who villain, like, which I think just works really, really well. And that just makes it fun to watch. Again, this is a good thing about this episode, is that, and the series in general, is that there's, unlike Series 11 played it played it a bit safe, I always thought, but this series seems to be letting us have the over-the-top, let's go a little ham with this, because remember, this is Doctor Who. This is the show where you have, we're known for characters throughout the classic series, like Professor Zaroff, and Soul Lead, and Helen A., and just a bunch of, a long line of prominent British and European British actors going over the top ham with villains, and New Who hasn't always done that, and that's one thing I'm very glad that this script does. It's let's go over the top, let's go crazy with it, and I really enjoyed it. But yeah, that's really all I have to say. I genuinely, I didn't think I would go in loving this episode, but I kind of did. It's got flaws. I wish the companions were better served. Having 3 companions is still a problem. They're trying. And I will say, it's a better companion dynamic than the last time we had 3 companions in the TARDIS on television, way back in season 19. Because they're at least having a fun dynamic. I just wish that we had more time with them. So yeah, where they really don't all need to be there. But I also do like just the fact that it is a good dynamic, and it is a good dynamic. But yeah, if I were to score this episode, it would probably get an 8 out of 10. I'd say that tentatively. So thanks for everybody for watching this rambly version of my thoughts. Of course, comment down below what you thought. Leave a like, subscribe, let's get a conversation going. And I will see you next time. Next week we have the June returning. And before then, we have the spare parts video coming out. So, look forward to those.